This video is to walk you through numbers 1 through 4 on Test 2 test review. So to start off, you're told to perform the following operation, which is division. So in the first one, I am going to use polynomial long division, but you could use synthetic if you want. I'm just going to show you long so you can review. Alright, so to start off, we look at our first term here. So x cubed, and then we divide it by the first term of our divisor, which is x. So x cubed divided by x gives us x squared. So then that number goes on top. And then we multiply. So x squared times x gives us x cubed. X squared times negative 8 gives us negative 8x squared. Then we draw our line and change both signs. So then those cancel and those cancel. So we get 0x squared, and then we bring down the 16x. Then we start the process over. So 0x squared divided by x gives us 0x. 0x times x is 0x squared. 0x times negative 8 is 0x. I put a negative because negative times a positive, but you could have plus 0 because either way it's still 0. But I'm just doing this to keep with the signs. So then we draw a line and change both signs. So then those cancel and we get 16x, and we bring down 128. So then 16x divided by x is 16. 16 times x is 16x. 16 times negative 8 is negative 128. Then we draw our line, change both signs. So then those cancel, and we are left with 256. So our remainder is 256. So plus 256 over quantity x minus 8. So now to clean up our answer, since we have 0x in it, let's rewrite this as x squared plus 16 plus 256 over quantity x minus 8. And that's how you do number 1 by long division. Alright, so now let's take a look at number 2. So for number 2, I am going to use synthetic division. So let's take a look at our divisor. And our divisor is 3x plus 1. Remember, an exponent of negative 1 means to divide. So our divisor is 3x plus 1. So we need to solve for x to figure out what goes in the box for synthetic division. So set your divisor equal to 0 and solve for x. So subtract 1 from both sides and we get 3x equals negative 1. Divide both sides by 3 and we get x equals negative 1/3. So then negative 1/3 goes in our box, and we write down the coefficients from our dividend. So that would be 3, negative 5, 10, negative 3. And of course, if we were missing any terms, we would write a 0 as a placeholder for those. But in this case, we weren't missing any, so we're good. So then to do synthetic division, we bring down the first number. So 3 comes down, and then we multiply. So 3 times negative 1/3 gives us negative 1. Negative 5 plus negative 1 is negative 6. Negative 6 times negative 1/3 is positive 2. 10 plus 2 is 12. 12 times negative 1/3 is negative 4. negative 3 plus negative 4 is negative 7. So then, since we divided by 3 over here, we will divide these terms right here by 3. We don't mess with our remainder though. So then we get, let's look. Alright, so we started with 3x cubed. So our answer will start with x squared. So x squared minus 2x plus 4 minus 7 over our divisor, which was the quantity 3x plus 1. So then this is our answer. Alrighty, so now let's take a look at number 3. So number 3 says to evaluate the following functions at the given value by division. So what that means is they want you to use the remainder theorem, which says that if you evaluate a function at a value, then the number you get when you evaluate will be your remainder. So then it says explain what the solution tells you about the polynomial. So then it wants you to use the factor theorem, which says if you evaluate your function and you get 0, then that means that that number, when written as a factor, would be a factor of the polynomial. So for the first one, we will store the value 1 for x. So get your calculator. To store a value, remember we type the value first, then we hit store, which is the button above on, and then we hit X, and then we hit enter. So now we've stored 1 for x in our calculator. So now we can just type in the function on our home screen. So x cubed minus 3x squared plus 5x minus 3. And we get 0. So f of 1 equals 0. So now, according to the factor theorem, we have a remainder of 0. So then if we wrote x equals 1 as a factor, we would have x minus 1. So x minus 1 is a factor because, remember the upside down 3 dots is because. So because f of 1 equals 0. And then you could write it another way. You could write the f of 1 equals 0 first. So you could write f of 1 equals 0, therefore x minus 1 is a factor. Either way is perfectly fine. You don't have to write both. Just choose one and stick with it. So let's recap. So this right here is because, and this right here is therefore. Alrighty, so now let's take a look at number 4. So number 4 wants us to evaluate f of negative 3. So we're going to store negative 3 in our calculator. So type in negative 3, store as x, and then hit enter. So now negative 3 is stored for x in our calculator. So now let's type in the function. So 2x cubed plus 4x squared minus 5. And we get negative 23. Alrighty, so now if we were to write x equals negative 3 as a factor, we would have x plus 3. And then since our remainder, according to the remainder theorem, is negative 23, that means that x plus 3 is not a factor because f of negative 3 equals negative 23. Remember, the only way for something to be a factor is if your remainder is 0. So this concludes numbers 1 through 4 for test 2 test review. 5, 6, and 7 will be on the next video.